Hi, I'm Selena, and I'm from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Sally Page. Sally is a debut novel author, but she has written several nonfiction books. And for readers unfamiliar with your work, Sally, could you describe what it is that your book is about?
Certainly. It's based on the idea that everyone has a story to tell, which I strongly believe. And it's based on the idea of a woman who um, doesn't think she has a story to tell, or certainly not one that she's prepared to share. And she becomes a collector of other people's stories. And that's all going okay until she meets somebody who really wants to find out her story, and the novel goes from there.
And the name of your book is?
The Keeper of Stories.
Okay. Now, what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
I think that it's very much a book about ordinary life, but it's about how ordinary life is extraordinary. And I do think, looking at how it's grown in the UK, because it has grown by word of mouth, that people have wanted to give it to other people because it has a strong sense of hope within it, even though I do look at darker themes within the book. But yes, I think it's that thing of there's hope.
Okay. Now, what was the inspiration for your book, for the Keeper of Stories?
Well, certainly my belief that everyone does have a story to tell, and I had that sort of, well, what if you didn't think you had, and what might that, might you become a collector of stories? But then I didn't really have a central character until I watched the Oscars, and Olivia Colman, a British actor, when she got Best Actor Oscar, she talked about how, as a young hopeful, she had been a cleaner, and how she'd stood in front of people's bathroom mirrors holding up the toilet cleaner as if it was an Oscar statue. And I wondered what it might be like if somebody else was watching that who was still a cleaner, and perhaps their life hadn't taken off in the way they'd wanted, and what they would be thinking of, Olivia's speech. So it came to me that this would be a good character, because a very good cleaner goes into lots of different people's houses and has very different relationships, but sometimes is overlooked. So I thought I had my story, and I then had my character, and then I got started with the writing.
Ah, very interesting. So, what kind of research went into writing your book?
Well, I did about a year of research before I actually started writing the story, because I wanted to have lots of stories within the book. Because obviously, if Janice, my main character, was collecting stories, I needed to have examples of stories she'd collected. So I went round to my friends and family and acquaintances and said, have you ever come across someone where you're chatting away and they suddenly say something and you go, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that? And lots of people went, oh yes, definitely. And so I made, for a year I was collecting stories rather like my main character. So most of the stories in the book that Janice reflects upon are true stories. I may have changed the narrative slightly to mask whose story it was, or for it to fit the book, but I love the fact they are true stories.
And the names have been changed to protect the
Oh,
innocent.
very much so, very much so. And obviously that I asked permission. But it really goes to prove that, you know, the ordinary is extraordinary. And what I found interesting talking to people when it was their story, they didn't think it was extraordinary. So somebody could tell you something quite amazing, and they'd lived with it for so long. They didn't think, wow, that's an amazing story. It was just part of them.
Interesting. So, oh, do you have a favorite research story?
I'm very fond of There Is One, which is how my parents met. So Janice in the book is she reflects on lots of things to do with stories about, do you have one story? Is it about something you've done in your life that you're proud of? Or is it about having one perfect moment? And the story she reflects upon is the story of my parents. So my dad was a a policeman, and he was in the Bournemouth police station. And my mum had been out with her boyfriend. This is many, many years ago. My dad is now 95, so this is a long time ago. And my mum's boyfriend's car was broken into, and his raincoat was stolen. And they decided to go to the police station to report it. I mean, these days you'd never do that, but they went to the police station. And my dad was the detective constable on the desk, and he saw my mum, and he said, as he held her hands to take her fingerprints, because they were going to keep the car for forensics, which again makes me laugh, because the idea that somebody's car gets broken into and it has a forensics test these days would never happen. But anyway, he held my mum's hand, and he said that was it. He just knew that she was the woman for him. And he got the police driver who was taking him home to find out where she lived. And apparently my mum was about to move to Canada with her sister to emigrate. And she went home and said, sorry, can't go with you. I've just met the man I'm going to marry. And the sad thing is, well, it's quite a poignant thing, is my dad didn't know that until my mum's funeral, where my aunt was there. And she told him that. My mum had never told him that she had,
Oh,
on that
wow.
night, she'd gone, yeah, that's the man for me. So yes, that's one of the stories in the book, and of course I'm very fond of that because that's my dad's story.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. Both of them the same day. Um, what was the biggest challenge that you had in writing and putting out The Keeper of Stories?
Certainly in the writing of it, I would say the weaving together of all the many different stories, that was quite complex. And at times I was sort of tearing my hair out trying to work out how to get it all in there. But more than that, I would say it's actually trying to get it picked up by a publisher. So you have to get an agent, and then my agent had to get the publisher. And that took a long time. I mean, I was writing for 3 years before I got an agent. So I was dealing with a lot of rejection, and you have to have the skin of a rhino. You have to really dig deep with so many rejections to just keep going. So I'd say that bit of actually getting it taken up was the most difficult bit.
Ah, okay. And how did you overcome that? How did you overcome that challenge?
I think just you have to be quite tough, and you have days where you feel terrible and you just go, oh, I just want to, put my head under the covers and not come up. And then you wake up and you go, just let's keep going. And I remember reading or hearing an interview by Elizabeth Stroud, who wrote, I've forgotten the name of her book, really famous book now, Olive, I think it is. And I mean, she's won so many awards for her writing, and she got rejected again and again.
Hmm.
And she
Yeah.
said when she got rejected, she just kept saying, well, I will write better. And I really took that to heart. I thought, well, if this isn't good enough, I will write you better. I will write better. I will improve it. I will edit it. I will write something else. So I just kept going because of that.
Ah, that's good advice, actually.
Mm.
Um, Now, was there any character in the book that you loved or hated the most?
I love Decius, the dog. I love him. He's a fox terrier.
Yep.
And I had to have a reason why he's owned by a really horrible couple. And Janice is a really good cleaner, and really good cleaners don't have to, go to horrible people's houses because they're in so much in demand. So I was thinking, why would Janice keep going back to these people? And I thought, a dog. So if she's fallen in love with a dog, she would keep
Ah,
going back. So I had this idea of Decius, the fox terrier. But what I didn't realize was how bad his language would be. So in Janice's head, she looks at his face and she can imagine what he's thinking. And it's quite rude. And that literally, I mean, I love Decius, but he took me by surprise. I'm typing this and I'm thinking, Decius, really? It was literally, it came from nowhere. It's like he was talking. And it was like, really? I mean, really? I mean, it just made me laugh as I was writing it. But it was he kind of spoke. He had his own, he was out there on his own. So I really loved Decius.
I have read that people love the dog. It's the yeah. I think that's a lot of people's favorite character.
Well, I get emails most days from readers, and I'm thankful to say they are lovely emails. But I did have one guy, Howard, emailed me and he was complaining about the language in the book. He said, "You seem to be a
Really?
woman who likes bad language," which I don't particularly. But he was complaining about it, and particularly one of the young boy in it who swears. And I wrote back and said, well, he only swears once or twice, and it's a measure of how upset he is that he swears. And then I said, as for Decius, you'll have to take that up with him. I'd say he'd lose a finger.
That's wonderful. I love that. That's great. Okay. My next question. What else can we expect from you in the future?
Well, I've got a book coming out in the UK in the autumn, which, as I say, my US editor is, I think, quite interested in, and that's a book about friendship across generations, and it's set in a stationery shop in North London, so it's quite a lot about fountain pens, but it's about again, it's got a strong theme of stories, but it's really an exploration of friendship. I mean, I think that's going to be a big theme in my books because I um, think that, friendship is one of the greatest things you can have in life. So yes, it's a book about friendship, and then there is another book which has got a strong theme about flowers, but that's kind of a bit away yet.
Okay, that sounds great. Now I have some questions for you about being a writer. What is your favorite part of being a writer on the whole writing and editing process?
I think it's my characters because I get to hang out with these people. So,
Mhm.
all during lockdown, I wrote 3 books because I could lose myself in with those people. And so yes, that being able to take yourself to a different place, and I get to choose where they go and what they do and who they are. So I'd say that is my characters of them is my favorite bit.
Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine it's fun to just hang out with them.
Mm,
That's
definitely.
yeah,
And you miss
that's
them
true.
when you finished writing it, you really miss them. You kind of um, so when I'm asked about a book, obviously I've been talking a lot about my second book with my editors at the moment. But then when obviously you get to talk again about Janice and Decius and all the characters, it's such a joy because it's like revisiting old friends.
And it makes you want to write a sequel or something. Yeah. Ah, that's great. Okay. What do you consider the most challenging part of the whole writing process, and how do you overcome that?
I think um, obviously the getting representation and then getting your book to be bought is without doubt, the most difficult thing. But in terms of the writing process, for me, it's about learning how to let my guard down, to actually dig deep into your emotions. Because I am quite, like I'm sure we all are, I'm quite private. So it's not that I would be writing about my own experience, but you have to get to some really strong emotions sometimes within a book. And that is quite hard and challenging, definitely.
Okay. And what has been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
Um, oh my goodness. I went up to HarperCollins a couple of weeks ago because in the UK they've sold, well, it's now well over 300,000 copies. And I went up to the 16th floor of their offices overlooking London, and the CEO was there, and I had won this particular award, and there was champagne. and I took a friend with me, and that was so special because as a writer, you write in isolation, and my friends are very supportive, but I live in the country. I live, I'm writing away. My friends are teachers and doctors and nurses and accountants, or do all sorts of different things. Some are retired, do all sorts of things. But actually to have somebody with me to see this other side, and obviously it was a really good celebration, and we stayed up in London and went out for dinner and everything. That was really special.
Oh, that must have been wonderful.
It was. I was pinching myself. I couldn't believe it.
So, what was the greatest lesson that you've learned thus far in your writing career?
Oh my goodness. Well, obviously to keep going. And that's, if anybody is listening who is a would-be writer, just keep going, because only one editor bought The Keeper of Stories. I mean, and all my other books have been rejected. And this editor, and she is from HarperCollins, but she's from a very small part of HarperCollins. And it has been phenomenally successful for them. And she loves it when I'm ever asked, and I go. And of course, Charlotte Ledger was the only one who wanted to buy it. And that's the thing, that it takes one person. Of course, she's really smug now because she's done so well. But yeah, it takes one person. That's the kind of huge lesson.
Okay. So, is that the one piece of advice that you'd like to give to other
I would
writers, or
say, yeah, just keep going. Keep going. Don't doubt yourself. If obviously look at your work, try and make it as good as you can, go back to it again, make it better, but just keep going, because with the fact, with so many rejections, you might think your work isn't good enough. And as I say, it takes one person, and suddenly you're changed. It's like on 180 degrees. Suddenly you're what people want to read. And nothing has changed apart from that one person. So keep going.
okay. Are there any groups, clubs, or organizations that you'd recommend to other writers that might have helped you in your career?
I just would say keep reading. So if you're in a book club, that's always good. Not a particular organization, I wouldn't say as such, but certainly being in the book, being amongst book people. And I found the book people very supportive. So, any author will say just read lots of other books, because they help you solve problems in your own writing. So, yeah, book clubs, and just love being out, go to bookshops. I'm a big fan of indie bookshops. So, out into bookshops and be part of that world.
Okay. Now I have questions about you as a person.
Mhm.
What is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
I would say that lots of people will say this, that I'm quite shy, that I do have a level of reserve, because I am quite outgoing, but I've learned that over the years. I'm 61 now, so I think over the years you learn ways. But yes, I suppose my reserve. Just trying to think if there's anything else that I would say about me. I was once an expert witness in a court
Wow.
case for a brand of biscuits over here called Jammy Dodgers, because I used to run a market research company, and I knew more about Jammy Dodgers than anybody else. And they called me in an expert court case because one company was trying to copy them, and so they got me. I think that's a really sad thing to admit to, but yes, I've been an expert witness in a trial about biscuits.
About biscuits. Okay. I wasn't sure what
Cookies.
you okay.
Cookies, yes,
Cook. Yeah, I know, but
yes.
what is Jammy Dodgers? Did you
It's a
say?
brand of cookie, and it
Oh,
was
okay.
I'd done so much research on them that I was the person who knew more about them than anybody else. And that's a really, I think at that point in my life, I thought, I do need to change my life. This is really sad.
Yeah, I would say that's great. What question do you wish interviewers would ask you? And what would your answer be?
I think I would like to be asked, um, I suppose, I think it's about your next books because you're obviously you are here. I'm here to talk about Keeper of Stories, but actually I'm 3 books ahead, so it's that. But I do understand why interviewers aren't asking that. I suppose it's like actors when they're doing a film that's way ahead, and it's trying to get your headspace back to what you wrote or you were acting in, a year or so ago. So I guess the next books and things like that. But I do appreciate it's not always relevant.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your next book.
Thank you, thank you. Well, as I say, it's this one about cross-generational friendship. It's an exploration of friendship in some ways, in the way that The Keeper of Stories is an exploration of stories, but it's still very much. I am an optimist. I will always give a happy ending. I am never going to write an unhappy ending, but it's about the how the power of friendship, and again the ordinariness of some things within friendships that are really special and precious. So it's a book that I've really enjoyed writing.
Ah, great. All right. Now, what is or are your passions when you're not writing, and how do you make time for your non-writing hobbies and things that you love?
Well, I love flowers, so that's dead easy because I've got a very small garden, but I enjoy that. And I have lots of friends who are florists because I used to be a florist. So, any opportunity to buy flowers, to be out with flowers is great. So I can fit that in quite easily. I do love travel, and I have a real weakness for nice hotels with nice bathrooms. And the good thing about being an author is you have to travel. So you're thinking of, I've got places I need to check out because of things I've written, or I have to film some stuff where I've set a story so that my publishers have some footage of me talking about my book in the right area. So that's lovely. So that I fit in the things I love with my life as an author, or I am now, which is just a joy.
Aha. Okay. So what does your writing space look like, and what do you need to have around you when you're writing?
When I'm planning a book, I need a big table. So it's often my dining room table. So it's just because I need a big sheets of paper. I need notebooks. I need post-it notes. So I'm a planner when I start.
Hmm.
And then as it goes, it evolves and it might change. But I do start with planning. So to start with big space. From then on, it can be anywhere. It could be my office. Often it'll be sofa in front of the wood burner. It might be in a cafe, a pub, a library. I move around once I'm actually writing the story. You just get bored being sat in the same spot. So being out and about is really nice. So I don't need it to be completely quiet. It can't be super noisy, but um, I can write in, say, a cafe. And that's really lovely.
Hmm.
You immerse yourself in the book as you're typing, and then when you look up, there's life going on around you, so you don't feel isolated. I think that's what I like.
So do you outline your entire book before you write it?
Not completely, but I would do quite a lot of planning. But no, I wouldn't be writing to a complete formula as I go along. It's a combination of planning and then evolving through the writing. My daughter, who's a writer, she does it the other way. She starts with the evolution with some planning. I'm more of a planner with it evolving.
Okay. So you were saying that you could write anywhere, so you would prefer um, a little bit of music or something like that when you're
I
writing.
don't often have music on, that as I would find distracting. But say I was in a cafe and there's conversation going on around me in the background, that's absolutely fine. I can sort of zone that out. So it just is it feels like a treat. I mean, a lot of the writing I do at home, but sometimes you just get bored and you're on your own and you just think, oh, I'll go out and go to a cafe today and I'll sit there. And I do know some cafes that are also florists, so I can sit amongst the flowers
Ah,
drinking a coffee. typing away, chat to the florist when I'm not typing, and that's rather lovely. It's nice.
Okay. And do you have to have particular food or drink or something like that with you when you
Really, no, not really.
no
Just
coffee or
I do get through quite a lot of coffees and biscuits, but cookies, but no, not really, not really.
okay. Um, and let's see. Um, Writers very often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions with them to help them through their work. And do you have any of those, and do they help or hinder you?
I don't have any pets, and I am so proud of the fact that my book in the my dog in the book, Decius, who's a fox terrier. I've had quite a lot of fox terrier owners email me and say I am clearly somebody who does have a fox terrier because I understand them so well. So I'm incredibly proud of that, considering I'm not even a dog owner. So
Uh,
no, I don't have any animals.
no. Okay.
Just an
That's,
imaginary dog.
you probably have friends that have dogs or something.
Oh, yeah, got
Yeah.
lots of friends with dogs. Yeah, no, I really
Yeah,
like dogs. But I just don't have one. I have an imaginary dog.
I see. So your imaginary dog sits with you while you're writing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't need much exercise. Doesn't eat that much. It's really good.
Much less expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, okay, I only have two more questions for you. Where can people find your work besides Annie's Bookstop of Worcester? And I always have to put a plug in here for Annie's.
Of
You,
course, of course.
yes, and
I
you
would
can.
go first to Annie's, absolutely go first to Annie's. But it's with Blackstone Publishing, and they would be able to provide, where the distribution is. So, obviously, I'm a big fan of bookshops, so I'd say ask in your local bookshop, and I'm sure they'd be able to get it for you.
Okay. And as far as Annie's goes, you can call us at 508-796-5613. And that's in the US, of course. And and also you can email us at orders at Annie's book, the books Worcester. Um, and you will be able to mail it to you if you would like us to.
That's
Um,
good.
so those are places that, and again, look at your local bookstores, especially if
Mm.
you're in the UK. Um, and the next question, my last question to you is how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm on Instagram by Sally Page by Sally Page. Sallypage.com is my website. Instagram is my easiest one. I'm also you'll find me on Twitter as well. But I do updates of what's going on in my life. And I know the Blackstone Publishing are getting out a lot of sort of footage of where I live, where I write, those sorts of things.
And yes, your webpage
Yeah,
is also very good. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Sally. And
pleasure.
I don't know if you'll ever get to the States, but if
I
you do,
hope so. I hope so.
yeah, we'd love to have you at our bookstore. So
I'd love to
let us know.
come.
Let us know if you're going to get here.
Will certainly will do.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.